Are you tired of starting out strong but never finishing? Are you tired of struggling to stay faithful in your walk with God? Or what if I told you that the key to your breakthrough isn't motivation? The key is more consistency. So stick around because I'm sharing 5 benefits of consistency in God. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. Today, we're diving into a powerful lesson that I believe will challenge and encourage you. Today, we're talking about consistency, God's consistency and our consistency. And we're talking about what that means for us as believers. So let's start with this truth. God's nature, his plans, and his purposes don't change. James 1:17 tells us that he never changes or casts a shifting shadow. So God is consistent with us. He's consistent in what he does. From Genesis to Revelation, we see the same consistent plan of salvation. God doesn't flip-flop. He doesn't change his mind like we do. We are topsy-turvy. We change with the wind. In Malachi 3:6, God said, I am the Lord and I don't change. And just like our God is consistent, he's calling us to be consistent. He's calling his children to be consistent, especially in how we walk out our faith. Ephesians 4:1 and Philippians 1:27 both challenge us to live in a way that matches the faith we profess. That means that walking in integrity, showing up in faith, and living a life that honors God according to his word and his commandments, not just on Sunday, not just on Wednesday, but every day. And so let's talk for a minute about consistency at a deeper level. When I'm consistent in something, it means that I value it. Think about your relationships and your family, your friends. You don't just say that you value them. You show it by spending time with them, by nurturing the connections, by giving of yourself, by doing for them. Your intentions aren't enough. There's power in the doing. And so the relationship shows your consistency in the doing. But successful people do what average people do consistently. Think about people like Mary J. Blige and Jennifer Hudson, Justin Timberlake. They crossed over from singing into acting. And then we have people like Ice-T and Method Man and Ice Cube. They crossed over from rap to acting, but they developed their craft. They were consistent. They didn't just show up one time and say, I want to act. They developed their craft. They were consistent in what they were doing to prepare themselves for the work. And so let's look at inconsistency. We've talked a little bit about consistency. What is inconsistency? Inconsistency is when someone or something can't be trusted to stay the same in behavior or quality. When we're inconsistent, people and even God may not even be able to trust us in certain areas. And so people who are inconsistent are often double-minded and wishy-washy. God is calling us to be single-minded, to be stable, to be faithful, to be consistent. So he's calling us to move from that place of inconsistency to a place of consistency. Now let's look at a biblical example, and that's Daniel, a very powerful example. Daniel 6:10 says that now when Daniel learned that the decree had been published, he went home to his upstairs room where the windows opened toward Jerusalem. 3 times a day, he got down on his knees and he prayed, giving God thanks, just as he had done before. Now, this is a good setup here. Daniel was part of an elite group of young men. They were young men who were trained to be leaders. They were being trained to be leaders in the Babylonian system. And so they were sharp, they were gifted, and they were trustworthy. And so the king had plans for them, especially Daniel. He was going to put him over his entire empire. And that made the Babylonian officials very jealous. So the Babylonian officials tried to find fault in Daniel, but they couldn't. The only flaw that they could point to was his prayer life. In their eyes, that was a flaw. And so What they did was they tricked the king into signing a decree that anyone who prayed to any other god would be, for 30 days, would be thrown into the lion's den. But Daniel didn't compromise. He didn't make excuses. He didn't stop praying. He continued to pray 3 times a day, just as he had before. He proved that he was going to be consistent with God. He was building something in himself. It built his spiritual strength and his spiritual acumen to be consistent. It prepared him for the attack that he was going to face. And so later we know that he was actually thrown into the lion's den. But God shut the mouths of the lions, and Daniel came out untouched. Daniel's consistency built his faith in God, and he had a faith that said, regardless of the outcome, I'm not worshiping any golden images. I'm only worshiping God. And then if we jump back to Daniel 3:18, he said, but even if you don't save us, you can be sure that I'm not going to worship your God. So before he was even thrown into the den, he said, I'm not going to worship your God. And it doesn't matter what the outcome of my situation is going to be. And so Daniel was consistent. It was his consistency that built his faith for this battle that he went through. Daniel's life shows us that consistency is actually a blessing. And what are some of those blessings, those 5 blessings I'm talking about? So the first blessing is that consistency develops discipline and self-control. Forming spiritual habits isn't easy. Trust me, it really isn't. It takes self-control to pray, to study, to serve. In Daniel 1, we see that Daniel and his friends, they disciplined themselves to only eat what was pleasing to God. And so the result is that they were stronger, they were healthier, they were wiser, they looked better than all the others who were eating the king's meat. And so that consistency helped them there. 2, consistency builds faith. The more God shows up for you, the more you show up for God, the more he begins to trust you. And so Daniel was consistent. Even King Darius, but he fasted all day and all night for God to rescue Daniel because he witnessed Daniel's unwavering faith. He witnessed Daniel's consistency in God. And then the third blessing is that consistency leads to acceleration of your destiny. Daniel's consistent character caused him to be promoted, to be accelerated. Daniel 6:3 says that he proved to be more capable than the other men, than the other administrators. His consistency put him in a position to receive elevation and greater responsibility. And then 4, consistency helps you to stand out. When you do something well and do it consistently, it sets you apart. And like Daniel, you begin to rise. Proverbs 18:16 says that a man's gift makes room for him and brings him before great men. And so consistency gives your gift a platform. Yeah, God opens those doors for you. And then 5, consistency breeds spiritual power. Daniel's consistency didn't just lead to protection in the lion's den, it led to influence. After the miracle, King Darius issued a decree for the whole kingdom to honor Daniel's God. Daniel prospered. Why? Because he was consistent in his walk with God. Are you consistent in your walk with God? Am I consistent in my walk with God? God is consistent with us. He doesn't change. He doesn't shift. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. And because of that, he expects his children to reflect his consistency. Joshua 1:8 reminds us that we're to study this book of the law day and night. And we're to meditate on the scriptures day and night. Only then will you prosper and succeed in all you do. So if you want to walk in purpose, if you want to see progress in your spiritual life, if you want to grow stronger in your faith, be consistent. Let's stop living by our emotions and start living by our decisions. And those decisions should be rooted in God's word, led by his spirit, and grounded in consistency. So if this message encouraged you today, make sure that you like it, that you comment, and that you subscribe. Let me know in the comments what area of your life you're committing to become more consistent in. And as always, if you have a prayer request or a praise report, please drop it in the comments. I would love to pray for you, and I would love to celebrate with you. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for watching. And until next time, keep walking in faith and living with purpose.